Hey everybody, here we are at the Chamor broadcast, the telecast. I have Yossi with me, but I sure looking stoic. Are you there,
Shalom.
Yossi? Your
Am
video
I
is
coming
frozen.
through?
You're froze. I can
Am I
hear
coming
you.
through? Are my
Yeah,
videos frozen?
yeah.
You can hear
There
me.
you go.
Okay, as long as there's no interruptions. Roshan. Okay, might be we're doing all right. So, of course, there is an internet cable across the Atlantic Ocean between us, and if that internet cable gets damaged, then our show goes down. But we're not tied up with Skylink yet, so hopefully all will be well. So nobody exploring the ocean bed is going to interrupt us, hopefully. All
Yeah,
right. So here we are back again.
here
Today
we
is
are.
the 25th of November. And the 25th, that's November. You know, the word November comes from number nine, the ninth month. And December is the 10th month because originally March was the first month. So September is 7, October is 8th, 9th is November, and December is 10th. And the ninth month in Judaism is Kislev. And the 25th day of the ninth month is Hanukkah, the first day of Hanukkah. So here we are on what would have originally been the Hasmonean calendar. When the Hasmoneans actually were ruling, there were a lot of Hellenists, and there was a lot of influence of Ptolemaic Egypt, and the Egyptians introduced the sort of secular calendar, and the Romans then, of course, took that. Julius Caesar and the Julian calendar is a continuation of the Egyptian calendar from Cleopatra. He actually took it from Cleopatra. And so that was being used in the first century Judea. And we're not entirely sure when people would have been following Hanukkah. They could have been following Hanukkah according to the moons, as dictated by the Sanhedrin's appearance of the moons, for example, or they could have been following the Julian calendar. The calendar that we use nowadays in Judaism did not exist until the year 355, I think it was, 355, when Hillel II introduced it. Anyway, so every year Hanukkah moves back and forth slightly, but we like to get things prepared in time for Hanukkah. And I'm not sure if you can see there, I have a few lights up already for Hanukkah because we do decorate with lights and things in Hanukkah. And so they're up behind me. And I thought it was worthwhile mentioning a few Hanukkah traditions today, but also to go in to more on the nittel, because I'm doing this presentation next week and I won't be here live for next week's show. Week after next, yes, but not next week, as I'll be doing the presentation at an institute in Dublin, and I'll be talking about all of the halakha and Jewish traditions associated with the Tekufat of Tevet, or the winter solstice. It's not actually the solstice, to be honest. In Judaism, we don't really care about solstices too much. What we really care about with this one is the height of the star Polaris, which we call the Teli. And it's the time of the year when the Teli, or the Polaris, is at its highest point in the sky. And that is a significant time in Judaism. And so we have a lot of things to say about that. And that they are related to, we can call them Jewish Christmas traditions, but we'll get into it more later. The one I wanted to talk about today is from the book of Maccabees. You know, the book of Maccabees, there are several books of Maccabees. I hope that everybody has read at least one of those books of Maccabees so that you understand the full story. It's quite interesting how we think about Protestant movement has allowed us to be able to talk like this freely, Mark, over the past 500 years, thanks to the Protestant movement. But at the same time, it's interesting that we and anybody who's a Messianic Hebrew, anybody here, and people who are interested in Jews and Judaism would be people who have read one of the books of the Maccabees and know about the story of the Maccabees and Hanukkah and what that stands for. While ironically, the Protestant Reformation actually threw out the book of Maccabees from some of the Protestant Bibles, mainly the King James Bible, although the Lutherans still keep it, I think. I don't know about Calvinists, but I know the Lutherans still keep it, and I know the Anabaptists still keep it. So ironically, it leads to a lack of knowledge concerning winter traditions, which were ordained by the Maccabees, by the Hasmonean kings in the book of Maccabees. And that ignorance led to Puritanism, where they decided that decorating the house with boughs of holly and things like that, this must be paganism, and they threw it all out. When in actual fact, if they had read, or if they had managed to get a translation, I think it's King James didn't get a translation of, he couldn't get hold of a Greek Bible, a Septuagint, to translate. So they just used the Masoretic text, and they used that as good enough. Masoretic texts include Book of Maccabees, because for Jews, the Talmud is actually all important, and the oral Torah is all important. And so as long as we've got the stories of Maccabees and things like that in the Talmud and the Mishnah, we're not worried about not having a book of Maccabees in Hebrew. I hope you can still hear me. I can see my camera's frozen. Am I still live?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're frozen on the camera. It'll catch up with you pretty soon. We can hear you. Well, we could hear you.
It'll catch up. Can you hear me
there
speaking?
You go. You're back now.
Yes. Okay, fine. So what was I saying? I was saying about the Maccabees book. So we have Maccabees stories in Judaism in the Talmud, but without that Jewish knowledge and without the Septuagint or a Christian Bible, the English-speaking Christians lost knowledge concerning Hanukkah, and they lost knowledge concerning the origins of various Christmas traditions, like decking the halls with boughs of holly or putting up the garlands and things like that.
Right.
So the reference to that is in the book of Maccabees.
You're going in and out.
The book of Maccabees says that you should appoint a time of celebration to remember the rededication of the temple every year. And
brother, you're Yossi, you're going in and out. It's real hard. He's gone now. Real hard to follow him. We'll hang in here for a minute. See if
concept of something called Hanu Bush. Oh, what a pity.
Well, we're right now. We can't even see you. There you are. What you're saying is so scattered in and out. It's hard to understand what you're saying. If you can hear me, are you there? We can see you, but we're not getting anything live. We don't have you, brother.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes. But what you've been talking about for a while has been so scattered.
Okay. My voice is coming through.
Yeah, you end video right now.
Okay. Is it difficult? Is it too difficult to hear what I'm saying right now?
Well, no, right now it sounds real good, but
my video on?
Yeah, we can hear you. Past 5 minutes has been real rough.
Okay. Oh, that's too bad. Well, I hope it'll continue. I hope we'll try a little bit more, and if it doesn't, I suppose we'll have to put on something. What do you think we should do? Put on a different show?
Well, try a little bit more. A lot of times these things average out and goes just fine. Sometimes they don't. So let's try a little bit more and see what you're saying.
It could average
what
out.
You've been talking about
like
is
it's all right
the book
now.
of Maccabees in different places. Go ahead.
Yes, that's right. Maybe I'll just leave this computer. I won't touch that. I was going to open up this on the screen, the page from the book of Maccabees, so they could get the verse on that. But let me try and give it in a different way, because it's on a different page right now. So Maccabees.
Tell me what it is, and I'll look it up and see if I can get it up.
Festive garlands. Let's have a look and see if I can find the verse on the 25th. 25th day. So if we search for the 25th day, and we'll see if it comes up and says 1 Maccabees. They rose early in the morning on the 25th day of the 9th month. This, I found something in Bible Gateway. Maybe that'll help. Oh, actually, there is actually one in the Bible Hub as well. So let's give that a go.
What am I looking up?
So I think it's going to be in 2 Maccabees.
Okay. 2 Maccabees, what?
2 Maccabees 1:18.
Okay. 1:18.
And then 19.
Okay.
And
Bible, I got it. Bible Gateway. Is that where I have a, oh.
So
since we are about to celebrate the cleansing of the temple?
yes, so it's basically on the 25th day of the month of Kislev, we will celebrate the festival of rededication, just as we celebrate the festival of shelters, or the festival of booths, or the feast of tabernacles, which is basically with garlands and things like that. So we get the idea from the book of Maccabees, the second book of Maccabees, chapter 1 is where we get it. And I think it was worthwhile bringing that up. But if anybody hasn't read the book, I do recommend you do so, just to understand 2 things really, which are pivotal. The book of Maccabees, or the story of the Maccabees, is the first time where Jews who are doing good don't win. In the Bible, Jews, as long as we do good, we win. But in the book of Maccabees, Jews who are doing good lose. We're massacred. We're killed horrifically by Epiphanius. And it's a big pivotal point and change in Judaic thought as well. The festival of Hanukkah is a change in Judaic thought. And it's really important and significant for the concept of the Olam Haba, the reward in the world to come. Until the book of Maccabees, anybody who was sort of looking at our history would think that as long as I'm a righteous person in my life, then I'm not going to suffer anything bad. Job suffered, but hey, he wasn't a Jew. He was an Edomite. So as for us, the Jews, if we do good, we're not going to suffer. But Moses mentions this, why do the wicked thrive and the good suffer? And the book of Maccabees is a detailed account. It gives a detailed account of where righteous Jews who are avoiding idolatry, who are doing our best to keep the Torah, are punished horrifically, and there's no justice. Yes, the Maccabees eventually are granted a victory, but it's not the wicked Jews who are not keeping Torah who are punished. It's good Jews who are keeping Torah who are punished. Wicked Jews who give up the Torah are left alive. They're left alone by the Seleucids. The Seleucids leave them. And so this actually strengthens the idea. It's the strengthening of the idea, and it strengthens the position of the Perishim, the Pharisees. During that time, the Pharisees become strengthened because of the idea of Olam Haba, the world to come, and the reward in the world to come. So Maccabees is a big pivotal time in Judaic culture and in Judaic thought, where we, the Pharisees, the scribes and the Pharisees, take over and receive the mandate from heaven, if you like, when we are saying, we will get our reward in the world to come. Do your best. Don't worry if they persecute you. If you die when you're doing good, then you will die Kiddush Hashem, which means for the sanctification of God's name. And that's the equivalent in Judaism of martyrdom. Now, we don't focus on martyrdom very much because Judaism is not a religion of death, it's a religion of life. But we do have this concept of martyrdom. It does exist in Judaism. It's called Kiddush Hashem. And the book of Maccabees is really where you start seeing about Kiddush Hashem. Then you will learn in yeshiva, at least, that many of the prophets died Kiddush Hashem. For example, Isaiah. I don't think the story of his death is included in the Bible, but he was put inside of a tree and they sawed the tree in half, and that's how they killed Isaiah. So he died Kiddush Hashem as well. He refused to bend the knee to Baal, for example. And so Book of Maccabees is important for understanding that. And the rededication, the miracle of the rededication is not mentioned in the Book of Maccabees, not in Maccabees 1 nor Maccabees 2. But it is mentioned in the Talmud. But it also mentioned in the New Testament as well. The Feast of the Dedication is mentioned in the New Testament. Or the festival, and I think they refer to it as the Festival of Lights as well, if I'm not mistaken, in the New Testament. So that concept of the lights is only in the Talmud. And there's another kind of little hint or reference in the New Testament to the necessity of the oral Torah, which, of course, you are not opposed to, and many Messianic Hebrews are not opposed to. But unfortunately, many people in the Messianic movement as a whole, whether Christians or people who call themselves Messianic Jews or Muslims, are not very keen on the oral Torah a lot of the time. And I feel it's great sadness because you're missing out on a lot.
I agree.
Missing out on a lot if you are not doing that. So that's what you've got to get looking forward to. Hanukkah, of course, begins on the 14th of December this year, but just time to start getting ready. It's about the right time to start getting ready. Now, I have also got something to read. I'm going to read. This is going to be probably take us up towards about 40 minutes. If you want to take any notes, please do. If anybody wants to send a question through, they can. And it's about what I was talking about last week, and it's related to the Hanukkah thing. See, Hanukkah is an 8-day celebration before the winter solstice. And some people have argued that this may correspond to the Saturnalia, which was an 8-day celebration before the winter solstice. And it's mentioned in the Talmud. And we went through the Talmud Avodah Zarah, section 8, part A, last week briefly. And we looked at that timing of the Saturnalia and the calendar as 2 times of festivity around this time of the year, which were appointed originally by Adam Harishon, the first Adam. We call him Harishon. I don't know if you know why we call him Harishon, the first Adam, because there is a second Adam in Judaism.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The second Adam, of course, Christians are mostly familiar with Paul and his letters, who talks about the second Adam. And they think, okay, the second Adam is Jesus. But the second Adam concept existed in Judaism before Paul wrote about it. Paul writes about it because he's a Pharisee and he knows about the second Adam concept. But the second Adam concept exists in Judaism, and it refers to Sar HaPanim. It is the spirit of our righteous Messiah. But this holiday was appointed by Adam Harishon. Adam Harishon is the first Adam. And Adam Harishon was placed inside of these skins, these human skins. He was placed inside them as an adult. Jews don't believe that there were no human-like creatures on the planet at that time when Adam and Eve came down to this place, but that God placed them inside the skins of these human-like creatures. And so Adam came fully aware as a fully grown adult. And this has led some people to believe that Judaism is of the, or promotes the idea that that God created man out of clay and then blew into him his life, and he walked around as a living being. But that's not what we believe. That's what Protestants who've converted to Judaism believe, or Catholics who have converted to Judaism. Usually it's only Protestants who convert to Judaism, to be honest. There are some Catholics who do so, but not so many. But when they do, sometimes they bring their old ideas with them, and that's led to the corruption of Judaic thought. We don't believe that. God placed us into these skins and placed Adam and Eve's souls into these skins, and these skins were already fully developed human-like creatures, but with no consciousness of self, or what are you going to call it? No conscience and no human consciousness as we understand it. Anyway, he came as an adult, and he noticed the days getting shorter and shorter and shorter, because he was in the northern hemisphere, we say, and the Talmud says so. And he believed that this is the end of the world which is coming, and so he started to fast and repent. And after 8 days, he noticed that the days had actually started to get longer again. So he'd crossed over what we call the Tekufat of Tevet, the winter solstice, and then he realized this is the way of the world, and he started celebrating for 8 days as well. So you sometimes come across people saying that the 8 days before the winter solstice have become Hanukkah. And as for the 8 days after the winter solstice, we call it Nittel, and we should get into Nittel. We've covered it a little bit last week. We'll get into it more as the time comes up, because I want anybody who is a Messianic Hebrew to understand what Nittel is. Now, Nittel we have traditions for it. Nittel is spelled. Well, there's so many different ways of spelling it. You can spell it in English as Nitl or Nittel or Nittle. And it comes from the Sephardic word. Actually, it comes from a Latin word, natalis, which means birth, natal. You get the English word natal and prenatal and antenatal from the same word. The same word, nittel, or variants of this word, are the terms for Christmas in languages like Italian and Catalan and many Latin languages. And of course, it's Jews who have a Latin heritage use the word nittel to refer to this. Now, Jews who have a Byzantine heritage, my lineage is Byzantine rather than Latin. I don't have a Latin heritage. I have a Byzantine Jewish heritage. That would be Eastern Ashkenazim, for example. Eastern Ashkenazi Jews have a Byzantine heritage rather than a Latin heritage. And we use a different word for it. We don't call it nittel. We call it calenda or calenda. So calendar, of course, is the term which is used in the Talmud, the Talmudic term calendar. But the term which has become dominant in recent times is nittel. So if you want to find out about calendar traditions and what do we do to celebrate calendar in Judaism, then you're going to have to find out about nittel. However, there's some bad news, as always. The information which you're going to find out about nittel, if you're not reading Yiddish or Ladino, which is the Sephardic language, and if you're not reading Romaniot, and if you're not reading Hebrew, and if you're not reading Aramaic or Syriac, you're not going to find any reliable information about nittel. Most of the information about nittel has been put out there by anti-Semites for a very long time. And I'm going to read you something which I prepared about this. So have you ever wondered why Jews traditionally eat garlicky Chinese takeaway on Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah.
And did you know that there are other Judaic traditions associated with this time of the year? Things such as fasting and what we call bittul Torah abstinence, until lighting a Torah candle at midnight on Christmas Eve. And there is also even a secret Santa solution to gift giving at this time of the year. And we even have our own traditional Christmas Eve tale to rival Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. It's not Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. We have our own story, which we tell as a kind of a Nittel Eve story. Okay? You think, wow, this is really, really unusual. I never knew anything. Yes, because you've got to know the word Nittel, and you've got to know about calendar. So Hanukkah comes first, and they say that might be the modern day Judaic sort of interpretation of Saturnalia. But then Nittel is calendar, which we still observe as well. So we have a lot of traditions, but all of these practices have ancient origins. Even the idea of eating garlicky Chinese food has ancient origins. It wasn't always Chinese, but it was always garlicky. It had to be strong garlicky food. They have ancient origins, but sadly, and with the exception of eating Chinese garlic dishes, such traditions are now dying out due to post-Holocaust stigma reversal. Now, we can get into stigma reversal another time, or you can Google it and try and find out what stigma reversal is. But stigma reversal, briefly, because it's a psychological trauma, is when a victim starts to embrace a stigma which they are accused of. And they say, yeah, okay, I did that. I'm proud of it. So you might get a false confession from somebody who's been accused of a crime. They start confessing to that crime and say, yes, I did it, even though they didn't, because of psychological pressure. It's called stigma reversal. And unfortunately, because of stigma reversal amongst Jewish nationalists, in response to 480 years of a blood libel associated with the story which we tell on Nittelnacht, it's leading to the loss of tradition amongst us. This 480-year-old blood libel was initiated in the work of a Jew hater called Wolfgang Capito. Yamach Shmo v'Ziricho, okay? And he wrote a book called Shem Hamphoras, okay? And he presented this book to Martin Luther. And Martin Luther wrote a book called Vom Shem Hamphoras, which means basically from Shem Hamphoras. And he was actually criticizing what he believed or what he was told Jews do and believe by this anti-Semite called Wolfgang Capito, who actually invented the story, or actually corrupted the story to suit his own needs before he introduced this to Luther. It's very important to know about this because it's damaging Judaism. And it's been damaging Judaism for 480 years, and it's been spreading hatred against us for that much time. And it is also responsible for the Nazi Lutheran hatred against the Jews, which led to the Holocaust. Of course, Lutherans and Catholics, but it was nothing. Catholic hatred was nothing like Lutheran hatred, and is still nothing like Lutheran hatred, nor like Calvinist hatred, which is even worse than Lutheran hatred. But anyway, it goes on. So to make things worse, this book and variations of this book published by other anti-Semites like Wagenseil in a book called The Fiery Darts of Satan, okay, and other kinds of books like this, titles which are very anti-Semitic, they promote variations of Wolfgang Capito's Shem Hamphoras as if they are authentic Judaic sources. Even more so now, because the authentic Judaic sources behind this work were mostly burnt during the Holocaust by the same Lutheran Nazis who were promoting their version of our book. And this trauma is so great that when I met a Holocaust survivor in Haifa once, and I was talking to her about various things, she said how much she hates the Jews for this book because of what the Nazis did to us. And so that was really shocking and difficult thing. I mean, it's a shocking and difficult thing to come across Holocaust survivors telling you this sort of stuff. Really? And saying, you know, I would never want to see this book again. I never want to hear about it, and I never want to go down that path. But a lot of Jews have turned away from this book because of what happened during the Holocaust. And now are at the point where we are starting to, as I said, because of stigma reversal, starting to embrace Capito's version of our story and said, yes, we did that. That's right. That's what we believe. So we are losing our traditions, but we should go through it. And I really want to emphasize over the next few weeks when we come across through December and Christmas time, I really want to push and emphasize a lot of the truth, which never, ever gets the limelight because of the tragedy of the situation, the difficulty of the situation we're facing. But as I said, it's now being ubiquitously, because our own versions of the text have been burnt in the Holocaust, most of them, it's now being ubiquitously promoted as authentic Judaica online. Even Wikipedia, by Wikipedia for the past 20 years has been doing this, and worse, by the AIs which are trained on Wikipedia. So if you were to type in, I just do it now, if you want to, as a test, just type into Google, what is Nittelnacht, or what is Nittel, spelled NITL, for example, or NITTEL, you're going to get an AI answer given
I
to you.
I did that a while ago. Hold up
Yeah.
just a second.
And the AI answer is going to be trained on Wikipedia, which is trained on this anti-Semitic position. And if you try to edit Wikipedia and correct the position, as has been done by many of us over the decades, you will find the Jewish corrections deleted, and the accounts that we use to try and correct those deletions, you'll find those accounts blocked by Wikipedia. So this is not just a small thing. This is a big deal. Now, what does that say? Let's have a look and see. It says,
Basically, Nittel can refer to Nittel Nacht as Ashkenazi Jewish term for Christmas Eve, or a village in Germany. It says down here, from the Latin Natal Domini, nativity of the Lord. However, in Hebrew, it can be used to have a derogatory meaning related to the hanged one.
Okay, there we go. Right there, you've got an example.
Yeah.
This is a derogatory meaning related to the hanged one. And they're saying, if you go into more details, they'll say that, we're talking about Jesus as the hanged one. Well, that's not true. It refers to Magdalena's son, who was stoned to death and then hung on a tree in Lod. But it also has deep significance in Kabbalah to do with the pole star, Polaris, which is called the teli, or the hanging one, or the hook, the hanger, if you like. But that sort of little slur, that is a libelous slur there in this AI summary of information, because it's trained on Wikipedia data and things like that. Not just Wikipedia data and AI, but also Wolfgang Capito files, I like to call them, Capita files, like Reverend Dr. Michael Mearson, so-called academics who really love Capito and like to push his position always as if it was some kind of legitimate, valid Judaic position, which this anti-Semite just so was not wrong in bringing to the attention of the public. So that makes me, it makes my blood boil, to be honest. I'm very sad about it. I'm very hurt about it, especially when I think about the words of this old lady who was a Holocaust survivor I met in Haifa.
Right.
Therefore, I'm going to be talking about this for the next few weeks. Now, the problem is that there are a lot of concepts that one needs to know in order to understand the story. And so we're going to have to go through some of those concepts as time goes by now. We've got a lot of time left to do some of that, so we can. So Nittel, or calendar, we already have covered in the last week's show, refers to 8 days of celebration following the winter solstice established by Adam Harishon, long time before Jesus. This has got nothing to do with Jesus of Nazareth, you understand, right? At least originally, this has got nothing to do with Jesus of Nazareth. As time went by, certain traditions related to Jesus's movement got attached to this, but the calendar existed from the beginning of human history, according to Judaic interpretation. But it came to be associated with what we call the octave of Christmas, from Christmas Day until New Year's Day. If you count them, the 25th of December is day 1, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and then the 1st of January. That's 8 days. That's called an octave. From if you go from Sunday to Sunday inclusive, that's an octave. It's 8 days. Or Saturday to Saturday, it's an octave. Okay, so there's an octave of Christmas, and that octave from Christmas Day until New Year's Day is not an accident. It actually is ordained by Hashem in the Talmud, long time before the modern day Gregorian calendar came into existence. I mean, more than 1,000 years before that, our modern calendar came into existence. It is explained in detail in the Talmud. We have a full detailed explanation of this holiday in the Talmud. And it's an octave of Christmas Day to New Year's Day, and it's proclaimed even in the Latin churches and the high churches, like I think might be Episcopalian, but certainly Anglican churches, certainly Catholic churches, on midnight mass, even today, they will start midnight mass on Christmas Eve with something called a calendar proclamation, basically making reference to this Talmudic holiday. Okay, and of course, we're using calendar is a term which is used, which is taken from Roman, but the concept is still there. It's the
I'm spelling Kalenda as Calenda.
No,
right?
it's spelled Kalenda, calendar. But you can also find different variants of this depending on, in Yiddish, it can be spelled Kaleda or Koled, Koleyd. And kolenda is also a Polish word for Christmas, Christmas carols, and Belarusian word for Christmas, and the Bulgarian word for Christmas. And lots of East Europeans use the same word for Christmas as calendar. So calendar and Christmas is definitely totally associated in the minds of both Christians and Jews of a Byzantine heritage, rather, that means an East European heritage rather than a West European heritage. Okay. So, and it's all, as I said, it's also mentioned, known as Natalis or Nittel among the Jews of Latin heritage, and both words exist in Yiddish, both words. Now, according to Halakha, this is very interesting. According to Jewish law, Kehal Jews are not allowed to give gifts on the octave of calendar or Nittel, which we also call Edom's New Year for trees. Edom's New Year for trees is called the octave of calendar. And we have a lot of references to that. Now, the octave of calendar prohibition is usually interpreted as the 8th day of calendar or Nittel, although some minhags say that the start of the octave, that's in my minhag, the start of the octave, or even the entire octave is prohibited. The idea that the entire octave is prohibited is called a minhag meshuga, which is not actually it means a crazy minhag, because it actually goes against the Talmudic injunction, which means only on the day, one day on the day. So that's actually one day that we're prohibited. But we have an argument. Does that mean the first day of the octave or the last day of the octave? And then, as I said, minhag meshuga is the whole octave, all of it. But it's actually one day. So there's a difference in whether we are prohibited from giving gifts to our non-Jewish friends or to Noahites, Messianic Noahites, giving gifts to them on the first day of Nittel, that means Christmas Day, or the 8th day of Nittel, that means New Year's Day. Okay, one of them is prohibited, and depending on minhag, we have a different opinion. Okay, this is quite interesting. I think it's quite interesting, isn't it? It's quite interesting. So we have quite a lot of halakha about this. So, but it gets more interesting than that. For kosher gift giving, if you want to give a kosher gift to your non-Jewish friend or to your Messianic Noahide, okay, at this time of the year, there is a rule. Okay, we do actually have a rule, which has been discussed in halakha, of when is a kosher time for us to give gifts to our Messianic Christian friends. Okay, so for kosher gift giving around Nittel, Jews must either wait until 3 stars appear on the day. When the 3 stars appear on the day, then we can give the gifts. Now, I think this might be related to the European idea of 3 kings bringing a gift after Christmas. What do you think? I think it is.
Yes.
Because this is the halakha, and the 3 stars, the 3 kings. I think there's a relationship here. So we must either wait until the 3 stars appear on that day, and then we can give our gifts to our Christian friends, or we can give gifts on the night before, on the day before, which would be Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, depending on which day you want to argue that the octave is. Okay. If you argue that the octave is the entire period of time, then you can give gifts either on Christmas Day or after New Year, which basically corresponds to these 2 times, by the way, these 2 times, whether you give before or whether you give after, are referred to in Yiddish as or in Hebrew, actually, in modern day Hebrew as well, are referred to as nittel katan, which means before the nittel or lesser nittel, and nittel gadol, meaning after nittel. So you can give gifts on nittel katan and nittel gadol, but it gets more interesting than that. Okay. So these are the kosher times when the 3 stars appear at the end of the octave to give gifts, or we can give gifts on the day before, nittel katan or nittel gadol. If a Jew doesn't know or forgets this and gives a gift in ignorance, I mean, this sounds like one of those joke Hilkos Christmas you sometimes find on Twitter. They're very entertaining to read. I recommend you try and Google and find out about Hilkos Christmas. It's very fun and entertaining sometimes, and we like to do a lot of Hilkos Christmas jokes on Nittelnacht. It's one of the, because we're not allowed to study Torah on Nittelnacht. We have to instead entertain ourselves and have fun and games. I know it sounds like, what are you talking about? But this is actually the case. If you go to a yeshiva in New York, in like Crown Heights or something like that, and on Nittelnacht, well, you won't get in because you're non-Jewish. But if you were Jewish and you got in, then you will see people playing games, playing card games, telling stories, and making up Hilakot Christmas, making it up. Like, for example, how much should you chop off at the bottom of a tree if you're going to have a Hanukkah bush? We have a lot of stuff. If we talk about these things, how do you decorate the Christmas tree? And we make a lot of jokes about it, okay? Whether you have to cutting the bottom, the base of the tree, is it equivalent to circumcising the tree, and does the tree become kosher? These are jokes, okay? These are jokes that we make about Hilkos Christmas. But there is legitimate Hilkos Christmas, and what I'm telling you right now is legitimate Hilkos Christmas. This is actual, real halacha for Nittelnacht, or for Nittel Gadol and Nittel Katan. So you can give your presents on Nittel Katan or Nittel Gadol to your Christian friends. And if a Jew doesn't know or forgets this and gives a gift in ignorance on the octave itself, then we cover it up and say that such gifts must be from a Tishbite. And Tishbi is Elijah HaTishbi. It means an Elijah spirit, a spirit of Elijah. Such as, and this is no joke, this is extremely serious stuff, such as Rav Shimon HaKalpus HaTzadik. And that person is the main character of the story that we tell for Nittelnacht, the story which was corrupted by Wolfgang and his cohorts over the past 480 years to twist the story and make us seem like, to give us a blood libel, and just another blood libel, and make people hate us instead of seeing things through our eyes, the way we see things. But the fact is that we will say that Simon Klopas must, as in, you can in modern day, like Santa Klopas, if it's Santa Claus, Santa Klopas must have brought it in order to protect the Jew from the blame of giving the gift on the day. That's interesting, isn't it? So if you give a gift on the 25th, you have to say, "Oh, it wasn't me; it was Santa Klopas, or it was Elijah's spirit." I'm not joking. This is true. Yeah. So these are fun things. These are nice things about us. You won't find the nice things about us in the propaganda against us written by Wolfgang and his followers for the past 480 years. You won't find any of the nice stuff. You'll only find the nasty stuff, which is about the son of Miriam Magdalena's son, Ben Stada. And it was Simon Klopas who exposed Magdalena's son as a fraud when Magdalena's son was claiming to be the Gilgul, the reincarnation of Jesus of Nazareth. That is Magdalena's teacher. So Simon Klopas is the one who exposed that. Anyway, and Simon Klopas is also known as John, by the way. He's also known as Yochanan. And he was a Jew who demonstrated what we can call Messianic Noahide Judaism. Noahide Judaism for Messianic people. But in Judaism, it's not called Messianic Noahide Judaism. In Judaism, and in the Telia itself, in the story itself, it's called Pavlut. It's called Pavlut. That's the correct term in the Telia for the religion established by Simon Klopas for Noahides, what we call Noahide Messianic Noahide Judaism, or Noahide Judaism for Messianic people. What I've been teaching on this channel for the whole year would be called Pavlut. And the people who follow it are called Paulicians originally, but they still some exist in Bulgaria and stuff like that. But they are a small Noahide group which existed for the past 2,000 years. So, okay, how much time we got? Where are we up to?
You got 12 minutes.
Okay. So now this calendar Nittel octave, this time of observing this celebration appointed by Adam, which is called an Eid for the children of Noah, is preceded by a garlic diet, hence garlicky Chinese food. A garlic diet from the date Edom's calendar, Edom's 8th to the 22nd of Tevet, which corresponds nowadays to the 10th and the 24th of December. Edom's calendar is different from our calendar, but their calendar from the 8th to the 22nd of Tevet is a time for this garlic diet. And it is carried out in remembrance of the spiritual Elijah that we mentioned earlier, this John, also known as Rav Shimon HaKalpus HaTzadik, Saint Simon Klopas, and his efforts to undermine the Dosithian doctrine of Magdalena's son.
Wow.
And that spirit of Saturnalia, which is promoted by the Dosithian sect. So the Saturnalian, the way that Romans and pagans celebrate Saturnalia with all this drunken debauchery, and they get away with everything and say, oh, it's just Christmas, mate, coming up to Christmas time. That spirit is the Antichrist. And we struggle against that spirit every year. We do fasting and we eat garlicky foods. And we don't read Torah on that night, Bittul Torah. Why don't we read Torah? It's called Bittul Torah. Do you know about Bittul Torah? Have you come across it before?
No.
So Bittul Torah.
But
yeah.
One of the things that I found on Nittel was that they don't read the Torah on that first night.
That's right. We wait until midnight. We light a candle, and then we read the Telia. We read the Talmudic passages which are relevant to this. We get the story. It's a Baraita, actually, and then we study Torah at midnight. But until midnight, we don't study Torah. We make up stories. We make up jokes and games. We make up the Holocaust Christmas and things like that. We play chess. We play trumps. We play all sorts of different board games. Even in yeshiva, even in kollel, we do this on Nittelnacht. And it's only the most observant Jews who do this. The absolute Haredi, the absolute most observant Jews are the ones who do this, really, or preserve this. If it's less than ultra-Orthodox, the most you're going to find really is that they eat Chinese food or they get Chinese takeaway. And they don't even know why they're doing this anymore. But the reason is because of this garlic diet. I'm telling you, this is actually quite interesting.
I know, I agree.
So this garlic diet, it comes before Nittel octave. And we do this fast in memory of Simon Klopas, who was given a holy day, a day of fasting on the Jewish calendar on the 9th of Tevet, which is to be observed on Edom's calendar rather than our own calendar. The 9th of Tevet corresponding to the 11th of December. And on Edom's calendar, which is fixed. It's not like our calendar, which moves around. And this is because he was resisting the Scythian spirit of Saturnalia. Now, this diet ends when the calendar Nittel begins at midnight. We light the candle, but it must include, the fasting period must include the last and darkest days of Saturnalia, which are called Moidrike Nacht, meaning murderous night, Finstere Nacht, or darkest night, Blinde Nacht, blind night, because you can't see anything, but also Nittelnacht, meaning the night of labor, or the birth night. It's Christmas Eve, basically. And under a 2 millennia year old Judaic narrative, calendar or Nittel, which follows Klopas's garlic diet discipline symbolizes the Bei Abidan Red Hebrews. Bei Abidan is mentioned and discussed in the Talmud. The Bei Abidan Red Hebrews are the Jerusalem church, which is called Thyatira Church of Edom's remnant, mentioned in the book of Acts, chapter 15, when it talks about the remnant of men. But it's making a reference, it's direct quotation of Amos chapter 9, where it talks about the remnant of Edom. So this church of the remnant of Edom, or what we call in Orthodox Judaism, Edom's head, are the ones who get a place in the Olam Haba. They gain a place in the world to come. Not all Christians do. Edom, he says, Jacob I have loved, Edom I have hated. But the remnant of Edom, God remembers them and he saves them. And that remnant of man in book of Acts chapter 15 is a reference to Amos chapter 9, the remnant of Edom.
9, 11, and 12.
Chapter 9, verse 11 and 12.
Right.
And in book of Acts chapter 15, verses 15, isn't it? It's 15, I believe.
This is what AI says. The connection between Acts 15 and Edom is through James' use of Amos 9, 11 through 12 to justify the inclusion of Gentiles in the church.
Yeah. Specifically Edoms, the red right. Hebrews, which refers to basically Messianic Noahites. So Messianic Noahites are Messianic Hebrews. And I say, don't call yourself Jews, call yourself Messianic Hebrews. Accept the identity as the remnant of Edom, or Edom's head, the only Messianic people destined according to Judaism, according to all authorities of Judaism, destined to gain a place in the world to come. Because they are not idolaters and they follow the teachings of Yeshua min Nazareth in the correct way. So those are the remnant of men. They're mentioned there, but it was also in Judaism as well. This is basically Bei Abidan. We call it Bei Abidan. And there's references in the Talmud. It means house of Abidan. Abidan is another word for the Messiah. But it could also be a pun on Adia Bene, because the house of Adia Bene were converted by Simon Klopas to this path, and so they became the house of Abidan. Thyatira Bay is also bait, house. It means the daughter. So it's also referred to as the daughter of Yeshua min Nazareth. Now, Jesus of Nazareth didn't have any children, of course. And we don't say that he had any sons, but he had this daughter, meaning his church, meaning his Edda. So the Thyatira, interestingly, Greek word, Romaniot word, means daughter. Thyatira means daughter. And then book of Revelation chapter 12, that image of the woman who's about to give birth, that's not Mary giving birth to Jesus there. That is the church of Thyatira itself, who has taken the place of the dragon in heaven. And the dragon is angry because she's taken his place. And that's why he wants to try and get rid of her and get rid of his children, because he has been cast down. From where? From what we call in Judaism the teli, the hanger, where the cosmos sort of rotates around the North Star, which is in its highest point. So Thyatira takes that point away from the dragon. Draco, the constellation of Draco, is still around that North Star, angry and trying to grab her, but she's taken that position. That's the Thyatira. Anyway, so it's called Bei Abidan. And for the 2,000 years, this calendar narrative, or the now called Nittel, symbolizes Bei Abidan, Red Hebrews, or Thyatira Church of Edom's remnant, who, just like Cyrus the Great, just like that Noahide, Cyrus the Great, embrace the way of the messianic spirit. Hence, Cyrus the Great, the Noahide, is referred to as the Messiah in Judaism, right? He's referred to as Messiah. And those Noahides who embrace the same way,
2 minutes,
they get the same title.
Awesome. Wow. I had not heard that at all.
it's a lot to go over, and we've got 2 minutes, so we're not going to go too much. But
Yeah.
as we go through this over the next several weeks, although I'm not here next week, and I hope that I will send you the video so that you can upload that when that's available. Okay.
Good.
As we go over this in the next 2 weeks, it might be a big eye-opener, but I'll spoil the story somewhat now and say it up ahead of time. Orthodox Jews, are extremely happy about the fact that Roman pagans and apostate Jews were converted to become Messianic Noahides. And that this work is Messianic work, is the work of the Messiah. The Messiah's spirit is at work here, bringing knowledge of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to the nations. Even Maimonides mentions this. Even Likutei Moharan by Rebbe Nachman of Meuman mentions this, that the Messiah in Christianity and Islam, which is Jesus of Nazareth, he's the same Messiah whether you're Muslim or whether you're Christian. The Messiah in Christianity and Islam are two eyes of one and the same Messiah.
Wow.
And that Messiah are the Messianic Noahides.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, we'll get into it much more.
Good. I'm eating this stuff up.
The Messianic Noahides are the ones who will save the world one day. They will.
I love it. I love it. Also love the fact that you've been stable for the past 45 minutes. So it's come through very well. But we got to go.
He wanted me to say that.
We'll be back live in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Next week, I'll play an archive of an older broadcast. But for now, we got to go. So love you, brother.
You too.
We'll see you next time in a couple of weeks.
See you all. God bless you all. Take care. Shalom.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all other live Lamb Show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell somebody about the Messianic Lamb Network.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.